All right. Good evening and welcome to the West Orange Board of Education Public Board Meeting on Monday, March 20th, 2023. I would like to thank all of you here in person and those watching from home for joining us tonight. I would like to welcome my fellow board members, as well as Dr. Schoen, Mr. Moore, Ms. Flores, and Ms. Flowers. Ms. Flowers, will you please take the roll call?
Good evening, everyone. Roll call, please. Mr. Ifker,
Here.
Mr. Stevenson,
Here.
Ms. Tunnicliff,
Here.
Vice President Huerta,
Here.
President Rock.
Here.
Thank you. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests are discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, a written notice was sent from the Office of the Secretary of the Board on January 6, 2023. That said notice was sent by regular mail to the West Orange Township Clerk and the editors of the West Orange Chronicle and by email to the Star Ledger. That said notice was posted in the lobby of the Administration Building of the Board of Education and posted on the district website. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcasted on local TV and the district's website at a future date. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, is all with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers. In consideration of the closed and public meeting of March 8th, 2023, do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliff. Are there any comments? Hearing no comments, Ms. Flowers, please take the roll.
Mr. Ifker,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Ms. Tunnicliff,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening to our student liaisons, Yushin Lee and Maura Baker. Would you please share your report with us at this time?
Thank you and good evening, everyone. The West Orange High School Scholarship Fund celebrated its centennial with a logo contest this year. Congratulations to contest runner-up James Durr from the class of 2025 and the winner, senior Mason Bashkoff. The Pi Day event also returned to Edison Middle School this year, where students and staff celebrated this day by pieing each other. The annual West Orange St. Patrick's Day Parade was held on March 12th. I was able to march down Main Street with my fellow student liaisons and student council members, Mr. Moore and Mr. Guerrero. There were performances by our very own West Orange School students, including the West Orange High School Marching Band, cheerleaders, and AFJ-ROTC.
Good evening. Congratulations to Shylin Rupe, who was the West Orange High School Scholar Athlete of the Week last week. Shylin is an excellent track and field athlete, but is also a very hardworking and accomplished student. On March 8th, our students at West Orange High School met with alumni and urban artist Eli Mint to paint a mural at Guerrero Gelato on Pleasant Valley Way. It turned out very beautifully. This is a reminder that West Orange High School will be performing their annual spring musical, which is Grease, this year from March 31st to April 2nd. Tickets are available on WOWA.org. Thank you and good night.
Thank you for that. And Dr. Schoen, it is now time for your report. Would you please share your superintendent's report with
I
us?
would. Thank you, President Rock. Good evening, everyone. The first report this evening is since our last board meeting, there have been 3 HIB investigations. I did review the summaries of those investigations and of those reported. All 3 were non-confirmed. I concur with the findings of our anti-bullying specialist presented. The next agenda item, number 9, lists policy 5420 for a second reading approval. If our board president is amenable, I recommend tabling this policy as we understand that it requires further review and revisions.
Yes.
I'd like to take a moment to thank the parents who spoke on behalf of the St. Cloud Diversity Council at our meeting on March 8th. Last year, Mr. Price, Dr. Pollins, Mr. Mendez, and I had the privilege of working alongside the committee to reaffirm the district's commitment to Black Lives Matter through their implementation of a week of action celebrated the first week in February at St. Cloud. This has included the integration of a lesson a day around the core principles of Black Lives Matter movement, where teachers are provided instructional resources and activities, and students engage in discussions around the importance and value of Black lives through principles such as empathy, loving engagement, diversity, restorative justice, and intergenerational contributions across families and communities. As a district, we are dedicated and committed to the integration of this work through all content areas during the whole of the year. As an extension and for more deliberate focus, Mr. Moore, Dr. Collins, Mr. Mendez, and I look to engage our schools in further discussions with the aim of implementing a week of action dedicated to Black Lives Matter, modeled after the work of the St. Cloud Diversity Council in February of 2024 across the district. We are collectively looking forward to elevating our discussions around Black Lives Matters and thank the St. Cloud Diversity Council for its advocacy, commitment, and provision of resources and ideas. This evening, we are pleased to deliver our 23-24 preliminary budget presentation. If our board members would kindly be seated in the audience seats, but please keep in mind, the presentation this evening is a preliminary budget presentation. We will be forwarding it to the county hitting submission this evening. However, we do have the opportunity to look into details and move forward differently should the board choose to do so between now and May 8th, when the final budget needs to be presented. So it is my honor to turn our preliminary budget presentation over to Mr. Moore this evening. So if the board could kindly move so we can see the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. I want to thank Dr. Schoen. And before she sits down, I just want to say a quick thank you to you. What a wonderful introduction, and a lot of hard work has been going on between us. And I appreciate all that you have done with us. So thank you, Dr. Schoen. And thank you for giving me a glimpse and exposure into what I will be doing very soon. And I'm glad that I've had such a great leg up with you. Thank you very much for your help. So tonight, not an easy topic, but an important one. We're going to talk about educating our kids, and we'll talk about the preliminary budget presentation for our 23-24 school year. I'd like to start by thanking Board President Brian Rock, Vice President Melinda Horta, Board Member Mr. Robert Ifker, Board Member Mr. Eric Stevenson, and Board Member Ms. Jennifer Tunnicliffe. Again, once again, I'd like to thank Dr. Schoen for her support. And of course, our business administrator, Ms. Tanya Flowers, and of course, our assistant business administrator, Ms. Anna Flores, excuse me, Anna, I was already making you related. Anna Flores, thank you. So our preliminary budget. Our budget starts with our goals. What are our goals? To increase and support student achievement by optimizing district spending. Our second goal, maintain safe and secure environments in all buildings. Let's take a look at how our district is made up. Our district is comprised of 13 schools with a total enrollment of about 6,844 students. We had an increase of student enrollment and specialized programs. Our students' instructional, extracurricular, and athletic programs are supported by 809 certificated staff, 486 non-certificated staff. The way our budget is funded. Well, our budget is funded through a tax levy. A tax levy is a tax bill collected by the municipality for school use. We're at about 150.6 million. We also have bank cap. Bank cap is unused tax levy available for the use in the next 3 budget years. If you don't use it, you lose it. And we're at about 972,000. Then there's state aid. And these are funds received from the state to support our budget. And this year we had about 34.2 million. Other aid and miscellaneous revenue comes from Medicaid, non-public transportation, extraordinary aid, and that is about 5 million. And of course, budgeted fund balance, and that's unreserved excess surplus, and we have about 4.3 million there. So a budget overview, expenditures. So most of our budget is taken up with salaries, and that's about 57%. Then there are benefits, and that's at 17%. Our special education, which includes our transportation, is at about 11%. Instruction and support is about 4%. Operation, maintenance, and security, another 4%. Transportation, general education, again, 4%. And capital outlay is at 3%. So what does our 23-24 budget include? Well, we mentioned earlier, it includes a support for the increased student enrollment in our schools and specialized programs. There's some examples of those on our screen, such as the preschool disabilities, our special education programs, and our English language learners programs. Our budget also, we're able to maintain our existing staff. And as always, maintaining our instructional, extracurricular, and athletic programs. So let's talk about our budget goal. So our budget goal is additional staffing to support our student achievement. So within our budget, we're asking for 1 ESL teacher, 2 primary autism teachers, 1 speech language specialist, 1 world language teacher, 1 pre-K to 5 supervisor of special services, I should say, 1 assistant fencing coach, 1 administrative assistant, 10 additional days for administrative assistants or clerical aides to support our elementary schools during the summer. To support our second goal, which is additional staffing to support safe and secure schools, we're asking for 1 custodian for West Orange High School, 1 district plumber, and 1 security guard for West Orange High School. Within our budget, we look at our capital improvement projects. And this is here we're making a significant investment in our infrastructure, which is we're spending approximately 4.3 million. Some of the capital projects, we start with Washington School Playground, well, long overdue. An elevator replacement on the Pleasant Valley Way side of West Orange High School. As you know, we have many students with many different abilities. Refurbished exterior masonry at the auditorium over at West Orange High School. Before we go on with capital projects, let's talk about how we fund those. Although we have the ability to fund all our capital projects within the preliminary 23-24 budget, the district will apply for a regular operating district grant called a ROD grant in order to offset some of the costs. So in 2022, legislation was signed which allocated $350 million in ROD grant funding for high priority capital projects in school districts throughout the state. What does that mean for us? Well, that means we have an opportunity to receive up to 40%, approximately 1.2 million in reimbursements for eligible project costs. So let's take a look at the other capital projects we'll be able to complete with this budget. These are the projects that are eligible for ROD grants, where we'll be fiscally responsible and try to get reimbursements. Here, we start with the central office water infiltration. St. Cloud renovation lower level, very important. As you know, we have an expanding preschool, but we have a preschool disabilities program in which we rent space for. We're looking to bring everything back onto our campuses and save costs there. So it's very important we look at that St. Cloud renovation. HVAC thermal control for the auditorium here at West Orange High School, and HVAC vent control over on the Conforti side of West Orange High School, and variable air volume system replacement right here in the Library Media Center in West Orange High School. So What is our 23-24 preliminary budget tax impact? First, we'll talk about how we determine the tax levy. We look at general funds, we mentioned that earlier, at 150.6 million. Bank cap, we talked about that, and knowing that, being conscious that we have to use that within 3 years, and we're at the tune of 972,000. Debt services, this is repayment of construction bonds and lease purchase agreements that we have, and that's at about 4.8 million. What's the impact of our budget? We're looking at a tax impact of about 2.66. So we took it an average assessed single family home at about approximately 336, and we looked at the average monthly increase, and that increase equates to about $24.70. Again, our 23-24 preliminary budget allows us to meet our goals. Again, let me repeat, an increase and support of student achievement by optimizing district spending. And our second goal, always to maintain a safe and secure environment in all buildings. What's our timeline? Well, tonight we presented the budget. Dr. Schoen alluded to the fact that we would press submit for the county for review. By April 24th, the county will give us an approval, but it is preliminary. So by May 8th will be a public hearing for the adoption of the final budget. So as Dr. Schoen mentioned, the budget can change in between that time. I want to thank everyone for listening. You're a very kind audience. My first budget presentation, it wasn't easy, and I'm sure I fumbled quite a bit, but I appreciate you listening. Before I take questions, I'd like to ask our esteemed Dr. Schoen to join me, as she has a little more knowledge about what we're doing with the budget, and she has helped me along the way. Dr. Schoen, there's another microphone on that end as well.
Second, if I may, Mr. Moore, if the board would be kind enough to take their seats at the dais, I think the first set of questions should be asked of you if you have any. And we'll kind of work on that together. We're going to go on that side. The other very important thing to mention, and I neglected to do so at the beginning of this meeting, is that the board members did have the opportunity to meet with us individually, same thing we did last year, and to be able to ask their questions. In fact, a lot of the presentation that you saw this evening was a result of their input over the meetings that Mr. Moore and I and our budget team, the Flowers sisters over there, I think we're going to change your last name, Ms. Flores. But I just wanted you to know that we did have the opportunity to meet. Mr. Mendez has been instrumental. Dr. Vespignani, from a staffing perspective, has been with us the entire time as well. So this budget really is a combination of Mr. Moore and myself, but of course our business team and our curriculum team and our board and our staffing. So I just wanted to make sure we brought that up. So Mr. Moore and I are going to go stand over there and answer any questions first that the board may have, and any insight that we can give, and then anything that the public may want to ask us. Sound good? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore and Dr. Schoen. Are there any additional questions from the board? Mr. Ifker?
I'm addressing Mr. Moore here. To begin with, that was your first budget presentation. As my first budget presentation. I've enjoyed working with you already. We share all the same goals, children first, accountability to the taxpayers. So I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Now the hard part. If I'm correct, there's about 74% of the budget is pensions and salaries. 11% special needs, 4% bus. It's hard to find places where you can save money. Gasoline goes up, things like that. However, we have to look. So my first question to you is, are you committed to finding savings between now and May? Because this is just a preliminary budget. And specifically, we're paying a lot of money because we don't have enough room, and we have to put our youngest students outside of the district buildings. What are we doing about that? And what kind of hope can you offer us to find areas of savings?
Well, thank you for the question, Board Member Ifker. Let me start by saying, yes, 100%. I share the same sentiments. Also, as a resident and a taxpayer, I agree with you. We should be fiscally responsible. So let's address the first part and then maybe Dr. Schoen can help. So yes, I know a lot of what you looked at on the budget seem like non-negotiables because things go up, inflation and so forth, but there are areas in which we can save. And yes, we're going to look at those. I did allude to the St. Cloud renovation a bit. I didn't give you details because our plan is still in the works to be specific, and that's in the works while this budget's going on right now to give you a better understanding. So I can give you specifics about that. But I think Dr. Schoen would probably clean this up a little bit more, but I think we're making moves to get out of some of those lease agreements and rent agreements that we had before to bring us onto our own facilities, which will be quite a savings, a significant savings. So we are looking to do that. That was in conversation, but allow me to have Dr. Schoen expand.
You didn't mess up anything. You were absolutely perfect. Mr. Ifker, the question is outstanding. And thank you. And we are looking into those ways. St. Cloud was a really good piece to bring up. There are spaces that we rent for some of our students, and we all know it would be best to have them within the confines of our own school. But our populations on general ed and special ed are going up on a daily basis. And we're running out of space a little bit. So with that said, we want to be fiscally responsible. We want to bring our kids back home. And in order to do that, we're being creative with perhaps the St. Cloud area, but we do rent space, and it is our hope in the near future to hopefully be able not to have to do that, which would be a significant savings. And I think that's where you're headed.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions that the board may have? I know you've asked many, but there still could be more.
Stevenson.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. Thank you, Dr. Schoen, and thank you. Congratulations to your team, Ms. Flowers, Ms. Flores, Superintendent, Mr. Moore. Thank you for the presentation. You know, budgets aren't easy, and this is the community trust, the dollars that the community contributes to the education of our children, which is another public trust, our children. And so the decisions that are made are not easy. And I appreciate all of the work that goes into making the decisions that are most appropriate for the community. To Mr. Ifker's point, with respect to, how we as a board deliver for the community, both in achieving what we expect in terms of high achievement and high aspirations for our children, but also doing it in a fiscally responsible manner, is forever and will forever be a challenge, just not in West Orange, but in communities across the nation. And so I think as board members, we take this serious. We take the responsibility as such duly elected to do that. And so I'm committed, Mr. Ifker, with you and with the fellow board members and with Dr. Schoen and Mr. Moore, to even in this period, find ways by which we can continue to deliver for the community in a way that is responsible and demonstrates the trust that the community has put into our hands as board members.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson.
Stanicliff, any questions?
Thank you, President Rock. Thank you, Mr. Moore, Dr. Schoen, and Ms. Flowers and Ms. Flores. I appreciate all your hard work on this. I know it's not easy, and I do appreciate, I think we can all appreciate that we're looking out for student achievement first, and also the safety and security of not only our students, but of all of our faculty and staff in the buildings. And that certainly shows that within this budget. The only question I have is this the last of the bank cap we have? And that might be
I
more
will defer.
appropriate for the
No, this isn't. In each budget year, the state has a formula for allowable adjustments that could possibly be realized in the budget process. So every year, the district could very well see additional bank cap that's generated. But so we will see this ongoing.
right, but there's no more but that's if we go under the 2%, right?
Right, or
So-
we qualify for an allowable adjustment as we
Got
go
it.
through the budget process at the state. It's all calculated within the budget prep.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. Rock. I'm
Mhm.
finished.
Thank you. Vice President Huerta.
Just a couple of comments. I want to thank the administration for putting the budget together and Mr. Moore for working hard. I know that there's going to be many more budgets that you're going to be working on. So, keeping an eye out for, the things that the community is interested. So thank you for that. No further questions at this time. I do know that we are looking to invest more into our bilingual students. That is an area where we need to work on, I think, for sure, in our Title I schools and our students that are, financially more challenged, so that they can achieve as well, just as well as the rest of the community that is more affluent. So just looking forward to that work. Thank you.
Yeah, a total commitment, and it's the definition of West Orange, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Huerta. And to reiterate what Dr. Schoen said, we had a lot of time with this team to ask our questions. I spent an hour with them last Thursday, so I don't have any additional questions. You did a great job last week. So I'll just say thank you to Mr. Moore for the presentation. You did a great job. I'm very pleased with the budget that we've come up with, or you've come up with. I think it represents a good investment in our schools, both in the programming we have for our students and our physical plan. So thank you very much. And
Excellent.
are we opening to the public for
Yeah.
questions at this point?
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
Yes.
I absolutely concur with what Board Member Stevenson said. Budgets are hard and they're not ways to be popular and they're difficult.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kramer, will you just state your name and address for the record?
Adam Kramer, 20 Moran Road, West Orange.
Thank you.
I concur with Board Member Stevens. Budgets are hard and they're certainly not a way to make win a popularity contest. I handed you via the superintendent document. This is the budget, but this is the audited budget from where we started at this fiscal year on June 30th of 2020. The real number for where we ended is about 226 and 700,000 and change in revenue, and somewhat less than that in expenditures. Our business administrator will tell you that the real number at the end of this budget will probably be somewhere in the 230 million range, give or take, my ballpark estimate. That's a lot. That's disparately more than our neighbors. That results in tax rates and tax levies that are disparately more than other districts that are also dealing with challenges that we are. And I'm of the opinion we can do better for the taxpayer and still make sure that every student that walks in the door has an opportunity to every chance of academic and educational success. There are things like a certain amount of courtesy busing that I think goes on here, after school busing for athletes and extracurriculum that a lot of other districts don't offer. As a taxpayer and also as a father and an educator, I'd like to see the money go into the classroom and instruction before it goes to those other things. Just my preference. I think that's more important. Not sure if we need to add a district plumber. If we outsource wisely, maybe we could save more. So there are things we can do to save. I know this is controversial, but we may have to have a knockout, drag out fight with our employees, not because we don't love them, not because they don't do a good job, but because the economics of buying a insurance through a broker as opposed to the state plan is just killing us as taxpayers. I know it's controversial. I know it's not popular, but it may have to come down to that. I like our schools. I trust you to do a good job, but I'm sick and tired of seeing our taxes and our spending being disparately higher than just about everywhere else. And that's why I'm speaking tonight. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the public on the budget? All right, then thank you again, Mr. Moore and Dr. Schoen for that wonderful presentation. Do we have any committee reports from the board? All right, well, seeing none, I will share my board president report at this time. And I will tell you a little bit of what is going on at Washington Elementary School. Washington School was awarded a grant for fruits and vegetables from the State Department of Education. On Friday, March 24th, 2023, Washington School will host a fruit and vegetable gala for all students and staff. To celebrate the end of their math work with addition and subtraction with decimals, students from Washington School took a walking field trip to the Americana Diner, where the students experienced a real-life application of calculating with decimals by determining the cost of their meal. Can't think of a more stereotypically New Jersey thing than to go to a diner. Students enjoyed the opportunity to eat breakfast as a class with their teacher, Miss Rodino, and case managers, Mrs. Whitman and Miss Tillis. Classes in English as a second language are conducted for our community parents on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. All right, the next item on the agenda is the second reading and adoption of policies and regulations as indicated in the budget. With the exception of policy 5460, is that the correct one? Yeah, with the exception of policy 5460, which we're going to table for some modifications, may I have a motion to adopt the remaining board policies in items A1 through 2?
So moved.
Thank you, Vice President Huerta. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliff. Is there any discussion? Seeing
Oh,
none.
I just wanted to mention, just give a quick shout out to our acting athletic director for his proactivity in implementing the baseline concussion protocols that are part of the athletic registration. So he's already on top of this before we even approved it. That's going out and the students are already responding. So thanks for staying so on top of it.
Thank you. Hearing no other comments, Ms. Flowers, will you please take the roll?
Mr. Ifker,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Ms. Tunnicliff,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next we will have questions from the public on other agenda items besides the budget. If there's any community member who would like to make comments or ask questions, please come to the podium at this time. Please state your name and home address for the record and then begin your comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any members of the public here and in the audience tonight who wish to make a public comment? No. All right, seeing none, we will move on to our resolution. Oh, sorry. Just the agenda. We'll have another general public comment at the end of the meeting after our resolutions. Thank you. So move on to our resolutions for the evening. May I have a motion to approve personnel items A1 through 4?
So moved.
Thank you, Vice President Huerta. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliff. Want to congratulate the following retirees. Consuelo Brennan, a 5th grade teacher at Gregory Elementary for his 28 years of service. And Phyllis Siebert, a kindergarten teacher at Hazel Elementary for her 18 years of service. Thank you both for your service to the West Orange school students and our school community. Best wishes to you on behalf of the Board of Education, and welcome to the club where every day is Saturday. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, Ms. Flowers, would you please take the roll call?
Mr. Ifker,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson, Ms. Tunnicliff,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next, may I have a motion to approve the curriculum and instruction items B1 through 5? Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliff. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, Ms. Flowers, please take the roll call.
Mr. Ifker,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson, Ms. Tunnicliff,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes. Through 17.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliff. Is there any comment? All right, hearing none, Ms. Flowers, would you take the roll?
Mr. Ifker,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yeah.
Ms. Tunnicliff,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and finally, may I have a motion to approve reports items D1 through 2?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliff. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice President Huerta. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, Ms. Flowers, please take the roll.
Mr. Ifker,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Ms. Tunnicliff,
Yes.
Vice President Huerta,
Yes.
President Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Or can I just make one statement? Well, I should have done this during my superintendent's report. I just wanted the budget and the presentation all to go well. But there are often resolutions on an agenda that are worthy of note. And we tend to do that when we hire new administrators, when we hire new principals, or we hire a new assistant superintendent. Our district has been very, very fortunate to have Steph Sakella at the helm in an acting athletic director role. I don't think that we all realize how much Steph puts his heart and his soul into what he does here 7 days a week at crazy hours during the night. When a student is injured, I get a call. When somebody needs something, you get a call. When the place needs to be swept, he does that too. You are so richly deserving of becoming the permanent director for this amazing district, and it has been my honor to work with you over the last 13 months. So congratulations, Steph.
Yeah. Can I make a quick comment? My mouse pad stuck and I didn't get to see my notes, but under the applications for school business requests, I always love seeing our faculty and staff avail themselves of professional development opportunities. And I did want to recognize and congratulate Ms. Kimya Jackson on being selected to present at the ERA annual meeting. She'll be presenting on her research on culturally responsive practice in U.S. suburban elementary schools literature review. So I wish her a successful presentation on April 14th. So congratulations.
Are we done with the extra comments?
Yes, sorry.
It's okay. Thank you all. And thank you very much to all my board colleagues. Oh, I guess we weren't done.
One last one, just a reminder to faculty, staff, and students and families out there. Ramadan will be starting this week. It is 30 days of fasting for all of the Muslim people in our community. Wish you a happy, successful fasting. And just be mindful to for your students that they might be tired, might be cranky. And so we have to have patience with ourselves and patience with those that are fasting. Thank you.
Excellent reminder.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ramadan Kareem.
All right, next up, we will have petitions and hearings from citizens on agenda or non-agenda items that you wish to discuss. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Please approach the podium at this time and state your name and address for the record. So if there's someone wishing to make a comment about anything, this would be the appropriate time to come up and speak.
Natalia Perry, 77 Maple Street, West Orange. I just had a question about the HIB. About the HIB investigation program. Last year, my child was assaulted here on the school premises and nothing was done. So I just want to know, how do we implement that he isn't being bullied and that there are consequences to the students that attacked him here on the school premises?
Did you report that this had occurred last year?
I reported it to his dean. I tried to press charges because one of the students was 18. I feel like the school covered it up because they kept telling me they were minor children, and the police department didn't do anything. The school didn't do anything. And I'm still trying to figure out why nothing was
Okay,
done.
and I'd like to be able to help you. I can't
Mhm.
imagine the school covering up anything. I've seen them
Right.
being transparent with things, but
Well,
I
they
am not,
wasn't.
I'm not, okay, and I'm not in your shoes, but I'm
Okay.
not familiar with the
Okay.
situation.
Right.
So what I would like you to do is to kindly give me your name and your phone number and
Okay.
let me look into what it is, or rather have the high school principal look into what it is that occurred. There is a distinct difference between a student code of conduct violation, a simple fight in the hallway, than there is if there is a HIB, harassment, intimidation, and bullying
Okay.
allegation. I don't know where this falls, so I'm not
Okay.
going to tell you it was a student code of conduct. But if you don't feel that it was dealt with correctly and should have been dealt with differently, and you are left with the same thought in your heart, and I can hear it with the way in which you're speaking, that we need to
Yes.
figure out what it is that happened and allow us the opportunity to do that. So Deshawn is the lovely lady in the back of the room, if you'd kind of wave.
Sure.
She is the assistant to the business administrator, and
Okay.
she has been working with us to kind of take any notes that we need.
Okay, no problem.
We'll be in touch with you tomorrow.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Raquel Hudson. I live at 9 Arvon Road. Thank you, Dr. Schoen, for acknowledging the personal request put forth during the last board meeting held on March 8th from several St. Cloud parents to begin the process of drafting and passing a resolution to designate the first week in February as Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action in West Orange district-wide, and the work the St. Cloud Elementary Diversity Council has put forth to date. Today, I am addressing the board as the current chair of the St. Cloud Elementary Diversity Council, along with my co-chair, Jessica Harrell, who's here tonight. The St. Cloud Diversity Council is an organizing and advocacy body under the PTA, for those who may not be familiar. It was founded only 3 years ago, but has already left a substantial impact on our community. We have a membership of nearly 40 parents who are educators, DEI professionals, activists, social service workers, community organizers, and engaged residents. Since our founding, we've organized roundtables for our community with expert facilitators, in-school assemblies, gathered and shared resources related to all topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion with our school and family community, and participated and collaborated with other local organizations. Our work has not gone unnoticed. This past year, we were honored to be nominated and selected as one of the recipients of the 2023 Dr. MLK Distinguished Service Award. Today, we come on behalf of our Diversity Council, standing in agreement with this request to officially designate the first week of February as Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action. We are proud to be the first school in the district to host this week of action, grateful to our school community for their efforts in organizing, and to our St. Cloud families for their overwhelming support of this work. Over the last 3 years, we have been able to celebrate this week through several things that you mentioned, Dr. Schoen. So I won't go through all of the details here, but we've partnered with several organizations, including the Black Student Union here at West Orange High School, to positively impact through story time. We have also put together a family guide that offers a selection of curated resources to be able to have thoughtful dialogue about race with their children. We've organized assemblies for the students, including working with the Jubilee Choir right here at the high school, as well as our St. Cloud parent and township councilwoman, Asmaret Gabor-Michael, as well as student activist and writer Marley Dias. And we've been giving each student the opportunity to participate in hands-on activities for the week. This year, students worked to create an intergenerational quilt that hangs in the hallway of St. Cloud Elementary School today, celebrating the diversity of West Orange that can only be appropriately defined as something special. Since celebrating Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action at St. Cloud, it has only received positive feedback from both parents and faculty, referring to this year's assembly as the best overall assembly to date. While we're watching Black history attempt to be erased from our nation's schools, having this board willingly adopt what is right and overwhelmingly reflected in all of our West Orange schools would just be one more reason to be proud to be a member of this community. Tonight, we ask, what are the next steps to move the Black Lives Matter School Week of Action proposal past ideation into action, and how can we partner to help? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Susan. So a couple of things, if we may. We did meet collectively as a team today to kind of talk about what those next steps were. Hence the reason I was able to give you some important information. It's my understanding that Ms. Harrell reached out to Mr. Mendez. There is a meeting on our calendar for April 3rd, and that will include our team. So we're going from the idea into action. While I won't be here, I do think that the board would be amenable to making it a week of action in the district. We can't put the cart before the horse, right? We're at St. Cloud. We're doing real well. We have to work with Mr. Mendez and Dr. Collins and team to put together what does it look like before the board can act on it. Does that make sense? So I think it makes sense that the new superintendent, when he is prepared to move forward with a program that he believes will work across the board, it is at that point that he makes the recommendation to the board. I wouldn't want them doing that and us going, what are we going to do now? I don't think that that's going to happen. So I think when we have our meeting on April 3rd, we'll be able to talk a little bit more. Mr. Price was kind enough to share with our team today those things that you have used in the past to serve as a basis for the education of students at St. Cloud. It would seem to me that reinventing the wheel probably isn't in our best interest. You have done so much vetting with such a collective group of knowledgeable people that we want to take a look at that. We want to be able to meet with administrators, and it really requires a partnership of our director of Diversity, Equity, Access, and Inclusion and our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, because the program must be one and the same, and they can't be apart. So I can tell you, Mr. Moore has been a part of this since the onset, since it was brought up on March 8th, what our plan is moving forward. So it is going into action. You just got to give us a little time. The great part is that we have a little runway, right? It's not occurring until February, and I do believe, I'm not speaking out of turn, that the board will be poised to act in what it is that you are requesting. They just have to know we can do it. Does that make sense?
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Ladone. I live at 11 Old Salem Road. At the last board meeting, I came here to ask that the board begin the process of preparing for the district-wide adoption of Black Lives Matter at School Week in West Orange for 2024. I'm glad to hear that the district is making this commitment. I want to thank Dr. Schoen, board president, board members, Mr. Moore for making that commitment. I know that moving forward with this designation is a holistic effort, one that encompasses far more than curriculum development and revision. Today, I'm here to ask about the professional development priorities for our district faculty and staff. I know the board does not generally respond to public comment, but I'd like to think that this information should be readily available to our school community. Specifically, I'm asking the district to share a list of the DEI-related training that the faculty and staff have participated in over the last 3 years. I would like to know how these trainings are prioritized in terms of content area, and if these trainings are standardized across the district, or if it's up to each school to determine the necessary trainings. I'm also interested in learning how the training organizations are selected. Is there a set consulting firm that the district works with? Who and how are those organizations selected? The faculty and staff training process is a critical part of the success of the adoption of this week. We need to ensure that the work is being done so that faculty and staff feel equipped and comfortable engaging in this material. Finally, on the matter of comfortability, a word that arises often when we talk about this week, I keep hearing that we need teachers to feel comfortable before we ask them to take on these topics in the classroom: Black Lives Matter, Black freedom and joy, anti-racism, structural racism. Teachers can do hard things. They can talk about uncomfortable topics. They do it all the time. We cannot put teachers' comfort over the needs of our students. I'm glad to hear that the board and the district are willing to do the work to prioritize our students and to prepare our teachers. I'm looking forward to learning more about how the preparation for this week develops and to learning more about our most recent and ongoing DEI trainings. Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Landon, just to comment, I know the board doesn't typically comment, but I think your questions are worthy of commentary. I don't have all the answers, partly because I've only been here for 13 months, so I don't know what's transpired over the last 3 years. I did my best to write down the 3 areas that you're interested in, ending with comfortability, but I would ask if you would be kind enough to email Dr. Pollins so we can put this in some perspective. We are lucky to have a director of diversity, so perhaps she can help shed some light on this, and I can make sure that I got your questions the right way. So if you wouldn't mind sending her an email so we make sure that we can delineate what professional development has taken place. I know she can speak to what was vetted this year underneath her new title. As far as that's concerned, we can reach out to our team and determine how that's done. Does that make sense? But if you wouldn't mind spending a moment to delineate it, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak this evening? All right, seeing none. Thank you all for joining us. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Thank you, Vice President Huerta. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliffe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, our meeting is now adjourned. Wish you a good night.